What's up, everybody? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel, and then follow me on social media on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter so you guys don't miss any of our content over the course of this season. All right, let's talk some basketball. I saw something on Twitter the other day from Kendrick Perkins talking about how he is not supposed to tell anybody, but there is a star that's going to be a Los Angeles Laker after next year. I am almost certain that he's referencing Trae Young. I had been hearing some stuff behind the scenes kind of hinting in this direction for a while. I had heard that Trae Young and Clutch are really have no interest in Trae being in Atlanta for a rebuild or a reboot or anything along those lines. Obviously, him being a Clutch client, it's a name that we've seen mentioned in reports in terms of guys that the Lakers would potentially be targeting. We even had a report that I saw, and I can't even remember who put this out there, but that the Hawks are considering rebuilding around DeJounte Murray. And I was like, okay, yeah, like this is the clearly direction this is going. So, I have my thoughts as it pertains to the Lakers making a Trae Young trade this summer, and it's really this simple to me. If I'm Atlanta, I'm going, okay, cool. I want all three of your first-round draft picks. I want Austin Reeves. I want Max Christie, and I want Jared Vanderbilt. Basically, every positive asset that the Lakers have. And I also think that you could see a team like potentially a Utah getting involved, although like Keontae George had a really nice game last night, so maybe they're higher on him in the long term. But like San Antonio is a team that I could see getting involved. And there are just a lot of teams that have more to offer, but you know how Clutch can be and the way that they can kind of flex their muscles to try to get Trae in a certain spot. And so I think that if you went to LA, that's what the deal would look like. And maybe if you're lucky, Rob could fight to keep Vanderbilt in a deal like that, but it's hard to say. And so then I think about Trae Young, D'Angelo Russell, LeBron James at age 40, and Anthony Davis. And I don't see that team as being really that much of a threat for the same reason this year's team has some issues, the complete and total lack of two-way perimeter talent. So from there, I look at it more as like a future move for the Lakers. Like, hey, we need a post-LeBron all-star to partner with Anthony Davis to make sure that he's willing to stay and basically venture into this next era of NBA basketball. And even then, I don't necessarily like this idea for the Lakers based on the simple fact that I'm not sure that an Anthony Davis-Trae Young duo is all that highly placed in the NBA, which puts us in a perfect situation to rank NBA duos. So here's what we're going to do. Logan, you're going to go first. I want you to give me your rundown, ranked 1 through whatever, of every NBA duo, ending with where you would put an Anthony Davis and Trae Young duo.
I kind of like the thought of a Trae Young AD pairing. I would go Jokic and Murray 1. I would go KD, D-Book 2. I'd go Kawhi and PG 3. I think I'd go Steph and Draymond 4. Jimmy and Bam 5. Luka and Kyrie 6. And then Trae and AD probably 7. Do you guys think I'm too high on them?
I'm sorry, did you say Giannis and Dame in there somewhere?
Man, screw Giannis and Dame.
Oh my God, this guy, bro.
Bucks are cooked, bro. I don't know what you want me to say.
Dude, that is the most absurd thing I've ever heard.
I was like, is this a mistake? Like, what's going on? I'm confused.
Dude, Logan literally thinks that the Bucks are going to be the first team in NBA history to get demoted. They're going to institute the Premier League system and send them down to the G. That is insane to not have Giannis and Dame.
I'm high. I'm a huge Steph fan too, but Steph and Draymond is not as good as Anthony Davis and Trae Young.
Also agreed. Yeah. Also agreed. Outside of that, Jimmy and Bam in a playoff setting, it's like they're capable of really good things, but I certainly think that AD Trae has higher upside if you get like AD who decides he wants to be aggressive offensively, and then we know that Bam's offense can wax and wane. Jimmy has consistently elevated his level, but I don't know how. I don't want to bet against it ever, but it's like we know what Trae can do carrying an offense with just every single possession. I can get us a good shot out of pick and roll. So for my list, I agree with Jokic Murray. I agree with KD Book. Giannis and Dame, I think, is a no-brainer. Then I think you start to get into the territory where you can kind of argue a theoretical Trae and AD over anyone. I think that Luka and Kyrie are playing unbelievably well this year. And I think that, of course, Luka is having a historic season and is the best he's ever been. But Kyrie is also doing an awesome job of floating that offense in non-Luka minutes, of complimenting Luka, like just hyper efficient, crazy shot making, good playmaking, all the things that he does. I also think Embiid Maxey is at least on the fringes of these conversations because we kind of got to see Maxey do it as that number 2 option, as the number 1 perimeter guy in a playoff environment. But I do think that he's pretty awesome. I think he's a pretty legit, efficient 25 point per game scorer, improved playmaker who at least has more tools to defend at the point of attack than like a Trae Young. But those two are both pretty close. And then to me, you have to have Trae and AD because I think that they do complement each other's games pretty well. I think that you would probably get the best version of AD playing with Trae just because he's never played with a guy who spoon feeds him looks like that out of pick and roll. Like LeBron has never run pick and roll at that sort of volume with the Lakers. Like,
because they just switch it.
Yeah, because they switch it. Whereas now you're going to be looking at teams in drop and Trae's just going to toast them and he's going to hit those lobs to AD all game. And it's going to be really easy for him offensively. And then defensively, AD's the best defender on the planet still to me. And so he can hide Trae's issues better than a whole lot of other teams. And I want to be clear, Trae does still have issues just because we've seen like the whole Trae Young is a good defender narrative brewing. I don't know if you've seen that, Jason, but it's a real hot topic these days. And I think that we have a real struggle collectively between separating improved from good. Trae Young is an improved defender who is playing with more effort, who is making more plays with his hands. All of that is fair. He is still 6'1", 160 pounds with a negative wingspan, a 6'2" wingspan. Like he's one of the most physically limited NBA athletes. And so he's never going to be able to be a plus defender in his career. But AD as a backline guy would do a lot to cover that up. So I like it. I think it's fringe top 5.
So I there's obvious basketball fit stuff. The simple fact that AD and Trae, you're going to have to guard in some sort of traditional pick and roll coverage. If you switch that, you're going to get a lot of bad results on both ends. Offensively, I think it would be a match made in heaven. Defensively, again, if you had to construct a defense around Trae, it would require someone the likes of Anthony Davis on the back line. I'm not sitting here and pretending like it wouldn't be a very successful duo in the league. My thing is like, basically what I'm pitching here is when you start to look around at the other duos around the league and then also the timeline stuff, like Anthony Davis is, like he, by the time this trade takes place, he could be 31, 32 years old. So like we're getting, and is a guy with some injury history. And so the question is whether or not, because I have heard things like Donovan Mitchell has some interest in playing in a big market one day. Like there's some other guards around the league that are in smaller markets playing really good basketball that maybe in a few years would be more interested in playing in a bigger market. The question is whether or not the Lakers should wait for a bigger fish. And then when you really look at it, it's like, are you going to have issues on offense with an Austin D'Lo backcourt? Probably not. So at least not in the regular season. And so that's where I kind of look at it as an opportunity to wait. Now, my list, I have Jokic, Murray, number 1. I actually put Dame Giannis, too. I did this bit on my show yesterday, but I actually would pick Giannis to win MVP this year. I think he's been the best regular season player in the league, not by some large margin over Jokic, but by some very small margin. Kawhi Paul George, I think, is clearly better than Anthony Davis and Trae Young. The way you put it is perfect, Carson. These are guys you could argue, but like Tatum and Brown, like Tatum is like probably right around the same level as Anthony Davis, and Jaylen Brown, for all of his flaws, is a guy that's relatively close to a Trae Young. He's in that same conversation. Jimmy and Bam is who I had at 5. Kevin Durant, Devin Booker at 6. I think that's a group that you could argue an AD Trae is better, but I would personally rather have KD and Devin Booker. I personally think Luka's better than Anthony Davis. In terms of the playoff context, I'd rather have Kyrie as my number 2 than Trae, personally, just because, especially in that kind of supplementary kind of playmaking role. Like The way he's partnered with Luka. Again, we got to look at, it's kind of like the Jokic Murray thing. Like, it doesn't really matter how good Murray is stacked up to the other guards. It's how valuable he is to the Nuggets. And the two of those guys are more valuable than all of these other groups. Like a Luka Kyrie duo, in my opinion, is a better basketball duo than a Trae Young Anthony Davis duo. I even put Embiid Maxey over that group. I think Joel Embiid has the potential to be a wrecking ball that destroys everyone in the NBA playoffs. I don't think Anthony Davis has that potential. So like that to me is the swing factor. I do think Trae Young's better than Tyrese Maxey right now, but who knows in a few years? You know what I mean? So like as far as I'm concerned, I would probably take those 8 duos over Anthony Davis and Trae Young. And so from that standpoint, especially given the Lakers and the way that they're consistently a group that is at the top of the list for stars when they're disgruntled and want to get out, I would lean towards passing on Trae and waiting on a bigger fish. So now that we've discussed the duos, and Logan gave us his ridiculous list that I don't think we spent enough time. We did not spend enough time slandering him. We should have spent way more time slandering him. But given those lists, would you, if you were the general manager of the Lakers, would you target Trae as the next guy to partner with Anthony Davis, or would you hang tight and wait for something better to develop?
I just want to say this. When the Bucks get bounced in the first round, I'm going to come right back to this, guys.
Okay, dude.
I'm going to come right back to this.
All right, man. When the Indiana Pacers beat the Bucks, as you've prophesized, and Dame scores 15 on 10% from the field, and Doc calls a timeout they don't have in the last 30 seconds to lose possession and give the other team a free throw.
Yeah, and Giannis takes
back and give you
3
your flowers.
steps and forgets how to dribble. Yeah,
Giannis starts taking logo threes. Yeah,
if it's Indiana, I definitely wouldn't pick that. I do think the Bucks are cooked. I would do it actually, and I think that Trae and AD would have great chemistry. As Carson mentioned, like Trae's an exceptional passer out of pick and rolls. I just think about the in between game, the floaters, the pull up, like. I think these are two guys that really complement each other and would work together. And I think the crucial point of this is to just not waste whatever time you have left of LeBron James. And I think this is probably their biggest need. I don't think their roster is there. And I wouldn't take the Lakers to knock off the Nuggets or to make a finals run. I think they need bigger, more athletic two-way guys, point blank, period. But I also think they need another secondary shot creator, another guy from the perimeter that can carry this offense, that can open up things for them. And that's the biggest thing to me is just whatever time we have left of LeBron James, you have to maximize that. And I'm not saying that it fully opens the championship window. We don't have a gust coming through here, but there's a breeze. There's a little bit of breeze with that championship window that I buy into enough with Trae, LeBron, and AD. And it's LA, man. You know, there's a reason that we always theorize these big superstar trades to LA. Los Angeles makes stuff happen. They make trades. They make crazy deals. So it's not impossible that one offseason we could see a dramatic, crazy roster overhaul or turnaround that makes the Lakers legit. I probably wouldn't predict it because I think I put the cart before the horse this season by taking the Lakers as my championship favorite early this year.
It's not over yet. There's a breeze there too, Logan.
There's a breeze.
It's kind of stuffy in here, fellas. I don't know about y'all. If they get Trae, I kind of like the championship window breeze that I would get with that trio. I would pull the trigger, man. I mean, what bigger is Donovan Mitchell the bigger fish? And I understand going for Donovan Mitchell, but here's my thing. If Trae Young became available, I would jump at the opportunity to go and get him.
Yeah, that's really the question for me is, would I rather have Trae or Donovan Mitchell in this particular situation? And it's sort of tough because I almost feel like for the last year or two of LeBron, I would rather have Donovan just for a couple reasons. Like, I think that Trae is the better manufacturer of team offense single-handedly, but you know that Donovan Mitchell, like, can be your number one option for long stretches. We've seen the playmaking from him this year has been very legit. And then he is more of a guy who's willing to give you catch and shoot attempts at like a higher volume. And he doesn't singularly dominate the ball in that same way. In defense,
he's also having the best defensive season of his career.
Yeah. And he's, a much better athlete who maybe isn't like that much taller, but he's got a 6'9" wingspan, longer, more athletic, has played within like a really good team defense. Like, he has some of that discipline. And Trae has never played on a good team defense in his life. So for those reasons, I like Mitchell more for that immediate window. Long term, though, if I'm thinking just specifically about how those guys complement AD, I really do love the offensive fit between Trae and AD. So I think it's honestly going to depend on like if either of those two are available, I would probably take the one who's available. If they're both available, then I think I lean Donovan Mitchell. But to me, either way, you need to add that star guard creator, and it's going to be imperfect either way, but it's going to make you a more serious contender because you need that sort of offensive pop and guy who can carry the load when LeBron just isn't going to do that for a full 36 minutes at 40 years old.
Yeah, I would, in the context of like a bridge move that gives you a better chance to win next year with LeBron while also having a person to partner with Anthony Davis, it's Donovan Mitchell every single time for me. I would much rather have him. I think you could build with Donovan Mitchell. I think you could build a legitimate championship defense, him and Anthony Davis with if you could maintain a Jared Vanderbilt in a deal like that. Like I think there's enough athleticism on the perimeter between a guy like Donovan and a guy like Jared to kind of make that functional in a big way. But I do think the Lakers are starting to get to the point where like if you're starting to make decisions this summer based on the LeBron version of the team, that gets tricky because he's going to be 40 next year. I think it's last summer it was very much like, hey, we need to give it one last shot with LeBron. We got to try to do something. And by the way, they did nothing. But like there is a case to be made that we're officially encroaching on that territory now where it's like, what are we going to do when this guy does, either fall off significantly or experience an old guy injury that takes him out for a season or whatever it is? Like, what are we going to do? And that is where I would not like a Trae Young trade. If I was running the Lakers, would be like keeping Austin, keeping all of these young players, Rui, Jared Vanderbilt, retain D'Angelo Russell, and just be this really fun, basically the team you saw in Utah the other night, like a really fun team with a bunch of offensive talent around Anthony Davis, and just wait and wait and wait until a legitimate top 10 player becomes available that you can jump on. And within a couple more seasons, you'll have a couple more picks. And that would just be the direction that I would go if I was running the Lakers. If Donovan Mitchell comes available this summer, pounce on him. If it's Trae Young, I'd wait and see if a bigger fish comes available.